Hello, everybody. I have a writing assignment for my writers group, and uh, it's holiday based. The assignment is holiday based, or winter based, or Christmas based, whatever. It could even be just cold winter or cold weather. They wanted to keep it very, very open to not intrude upon the creative process too much. So when I thought of a nice winter's tale or Christmas tale, the first thing I thought of was Red Sonja fanfic. So I'm going to try to do a quick holiday-themed Red Sonja story. It only needs to be a few pages. And that is my goal. I should also say that I'm not a professional writer. I have self-published books before and so forth, and I've done my share of writing, but I'm not a quote real writer. That is to say, I am not currently working towards getting published professionally. Even though I am a writer, I do make the distinction between somebody who has been officially published versus somebody who publishes for fun, or publishes even in the hope that somebody would buy their book. I do make the distinction for those who can make a living in writing versus those who just write. And there's nothing, and I would take nothing away from either person. I just want to stipulate that too. Boy, there's a lot of stipulating going on. Just understand that I write because I need an artistic expression, and I like writing. I'm better at writing than I am at painting and carving wood or anything like that. So there's that. So here we are. We're going to start right here on page 1. This, I'm sure, is a scene that many of you writers have seen before. A blinking cursor on a blank page. And it's just staring at you, daring you to write something. I have no outline for this. I don't know where the story is going to go. I know it's going to be in the winter, and I think the setting is going to be a tavern, but that's really all I have. So that's interesting that, I don't know where I'm going with any of this. But I would also suggest that once you start writing, you set a goal for it, but you don't stop writing because it's not perfect. I write a paragraph, and then I go back and double check it, and then I triple check it, and then I make sure it's perfect before I go on to the next paragraph. No, we ain't about that. We write what comes to mind and then continue writing. You're going to have a sloppy mess, maybe even a contradictory mess, or maybe even a mess that tells a completely different story by page 2. But we're going to keep writing because that's the goal. It is amazing how helpful it is to just write and not worry about how good it is. All right. You can always go back later when it's, quote, done. All right. Right, where we are. Okay. It was a dark and stormy night. No, that's not how I'm going to start. Let's see. A tavern. Okay. The fire burned tall in the center of the otherwise dank tavern. And here's going to be probably a sentence that would be cut or incorporated somehow into the first sentence. But I'm going to keep writing instead of dwelling upon it. It provided the only heat to the few patrons drinking their ales each in solitude. Let's see. Okay. The wind and flurries of snow threatened what? I would say the panes on the windows, but there are no panes on the windows. There's no glass. Maybe that's not good. The winds and flurries of snow pounded on the ill-constructed door to this haven of warmth. Let's see. Okay. The only sounds heard were the cracklings of the fire and the tuning of a lute, and the tunings of a lute. The sole performer sat near the fire in clothing designed for brighter days. His suffering shone on his face and in the poor state of his instrument. Okay. Almost set a scene. Continuing on. Now what? Now what's gonna happen? Boris, most proud, and braggadocious. Braggadocious. Let's see a spell check and get it right. Braggadocious. Okay. I wonder if that's right. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Continuing on with the story. Boris, most proud and braggadocious. Let's see. Boris, most proud and braggadocious. Sought to liven up the scene. Indeed, he was the only patron to move aside from lifting near empty mugs, mugs. Indeed, who's the only one to move differently. From lifting near empty mugs to the mouth. I'm not sure that's right, but I'm going to keep going. I know what I'm trying to say there. He slept. Who? Gertrude. Gertrude. I wonder if there's a spell check correct way to say Gertrude. There is. How about that? On the backside, as a sign of his dominance. Gertrude ignored assault. Another word for assault. Ignored the assault. Ignored the impious. A-U-L-T. And continued her job as serving maid. Fetching empty mugs. With only the slightest hint that she would be returning with only the slightest hint that she'd be returning with full ones. Boris burped loudly and smiled, looked for attention from any who would give it. Not satisfied with the near total lack of response. Passive sentence, but once in a while it's okay. Boris I may change that name later. I don't care much for it in this story, but it's a placeholder as the terminology that we writers use. Not satisfied with the near total lack of response, Boris stood up and grabbed the small lantern, lighting his table. Grabbed the bed. Okay. Dialogue. What's Boris gonna say? What is Boris gonna say? He needs to say something. This character development. He needs to speak. Okay. Well, we'll make it incredibly basic at this point. Bring me some of those bring me some of those what? Bring me some of those nuts. Bring me some of those salted nuts. A man like me cannot get by on watered down piss like the cannot get by only need the adverb only on watered down piss like the rest of these routes. Like the rest of these louts. I'm not a particularly fast typer. I'm not a particularly fast thinker, but I'm doing it. I'm putting words on the page. 211 words so far. And I'll take this moment to say that I used to write every day. I used to write, and I used to keep track. For a long time I used a tool called the Magic Spreadsheet, which basically, so long as you wrote every day at least 250 words, you could, it would count as writing that day. And I did that for over 2 years, where I wrote every single day. And, well, just think about that. If you only wrote 250 words a day, and I challenge any writer to only write 250 words a day, then just think how many words that is by the end of 1 year, much less 2. Even if you only use 30% of what you write, because quite frankly a lot of it can be crap, still that is book length. in terms of pages written, just in that 1 year. Granted, it might not be a big book, but it's still writing a book. If you're serious about it, is not hard. It takes time, but I mean, if you're prolific, if you're Stephen King, you can write like 2,000 words a day, and that's a low average for you. Then that is a very, very large book at the end of the year, even if you don't use all those words, which I imagine thousands of words can be omitted by the end of that process. But anyways, I'm for some reason putting a lecture point in the middle of my writing. A man like me cannot get by on the watered-down piss like the rest of these louts. And Boris heaved. Oh, Boris has only one R according to the spell check. Heaved his massive chest and thrust both of his gargantuan paws into the air, high into the air. I don't think I can say paws yet because I haven't described him as more than a man. His gargantuan, what's another word for arms? Arms. I'm going to use the thesaurus included with Microsoft Word. I'm sure it'll give me fine synonyms. Limbs, wings, there used to be a variety. I thought there was a deeper thesaurus in here. Isn't it? There it is. Limb, upper limb, appendage. Appendage isn't bad. Appendage. Okay. Close that. Appendage isn't bad. It's not great. It still doesn't suggest. I'm going to just say hands. Both of his gargantuan hands high in the air, into the air. Heaved his massive chest up from his slouch and thrust both of his gargantuan hands high into the air. Gargantuan might be a bit much, but I don't care. This gained a few glances from the tired and cold people. People is a better word than people, but I've used patron twice already and I've already written half a page, so tired and cold people surrounding him. Him surrounding him might not be accurate either, but in the inn. Sheltering in the inn. I think there's a lot here that can be cut, but this is just for one session of a writer's group. It shouldn't be more than a couple of days of work, or even a couple hours of work if you're focused enough. You don't need this to be perfect. I don't need this to be perfect. It is just going to be a very brief presentation in front of people that I generally consider to be friends. So they are alpha readers or beta readers even, if you want to get technical, but also friends. And everybody should join a writer's group. If you're going to write at all, even if you just got a project that you need to get out because it's been sitting in your mind forever and you've been, frankly, too lazy to do it, then, join a writer's group. It will encourage you to write, if nothing else, even if you rarely do. All right, just gained a few glances from the tired and cold people sheltering in the inn. In the inn. Inn has two words. It's a different word from tavern, which is good. All right. Is there anything more? After a pause and a brief, or after a pause and a spilling of, after a pause and a spilling of nuts Gertrude returned to his, I can call it, no, that might be confusing. Return to Boris's table and slapped, not, I've already used slapped, panned, and lay down a bowl, lay down a half bowl of nuts, of peanuts. I'll be more specific. she made eye contact. Okay, I've changed. Okay. Boris sought eye contact. Eye contact. And what did he do? Boris sought eye contact and moved to slap her behind again, but missed. She was ready for him this time, and she was ready for him this time, and he was too drunk to be accurate. Boris almost moved from his bench. Bessie, ready. She was ready for him this time, and he was too drunk to be accurate. Boris almost moved from his bench, to capture some form of success. That's not good, but capture some form to capture a touch or even a hug and embrace. Boris almost moved from his bench to capture a touch or even an embrace. But halted when the meager door to the tavern opened. All right. Saving. Continuing. All right. Let's see. One more sentence. Boris almost moved about his bench to capture a touch or even an embrace, but halted when the meager door opened. The meager door to the tavern opened. A blast of frigid air, froze him in place. Froze him in place. His anger got the best of him. Close the bleeding. Bleeding? Bleeding. Close the what door? Bleeding door? Frigid door? Not frigid. Close the freaking. Close the dam. Close the. Let's see what else. Blasted. Blasted. That's a good term. Blasted. Door. Or. Door. You. Fool. Fool, yeah, but what kind of fool? Close the blasted door, you. Close the blasted door, you. What kind of fool? My brain ain't working. You. Stupid. How about just stupid? Because this guy is not very smart. So he's not going to use clever words. So I'll just start with stupid, and maybe I'll come up with something else later after I go through corrections. Close the blasted door, you stupid fool. He yelled. Or shelled. Close the blasted door, you stupid fool, Boris yelled. He opened one eye. He opened one eye to the stranger hesitating in the icy doorway. The icy doorway. Icy. Icy. Ice-y. Icy. The figure was cloaked in blinding sunlight. Sunlight refracted from copious snow. Refracted from all the snow. snow. Whiteness. Whiteness. Whiteness? No. Sunlight. Sunlight is right. Refracted from all the snow. I guess that's sufficient. She wore a thick cape of furs open at the front. Carelessly open at the front. Carelessly open at the front. The front. She wore a thick cape of furs carelessly open at the front. Under this were brief bits am I going to be able to say that when I read this aloud? Brief bits of, I guess I will, of brief bits of shining steel shone from underneath. Shone. Brief bits of shining steel shone from underneath. Just enough. Let's see, what are they? It's not chain armor, it's not banded armor, it's not plate armor, it's not studded. Why isn't the word coming to me? Scales. Just enough. Steel. Just enough steel scales to cover delicate areas. To cover the delicate areas of her body, of her tanned body. I don't care if Microsoft Word has a problem with that sentence. It is a bit of a run-on, but that's okay. Once in a while you can do that. Just enough steel scales to cover the delicate areas of her tan body. Knee high, gig high, boots, seemed the only other clothing. Other clothing. Bare thighs and midriff. Bare thighs and midriff. Quite impossible in these temperatures. Bare thighs and midriff. Bare thighs and midriff. What? What do the bare thighs and midriff do? Bare thighs and midriff. Not shown. I've already done shining. Bare thighs and midriff. Told an impossible story considering the cold. Considering the coldest of colds. These coldest of colds. But the hair. Redder than blood. Redder than, not blood. Blood isn't as red as redder than what? I mean, in the comics, the blood is often as red as her hair. And I think that's the point they're kind of making. However, blood doesn't look like that. So, I want to do better. With the hair redder than, I want to say something like wine, but that's not red either. Redder than a rooster. A rooster's what? What is that called? Who in the world knows about rooster parts? I'm going to look it up on my phone. Do 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 do. How about a little mood music? Do do do. Rooster. Roostets? Oh, please do not spell correct me. Neck. Heart. Is known as the... Oh, I should have known that. The wattle. Wattle. The hair, redder than a rooster's wattle. What does the hair do? But the hair, redder than the rooster's wattle. Her hair. I'm going to call it her hair and change it. Darn it. Ah, touch the microphone. Her hair, redder than a rooster's wattle. Fell across. Closer? Fell across her shoulders. Her hair, redder than a rooster's water, fell across her shoulders. Her chiseled face. Chiseled. Huh. Okay. Chiseled face. That's not a great description for Red Sonja's face, but I'm not going to go deep into description here. Chiseled face. And you are seeing green eyes. Looked. I haven't used that one yet. Looked. Green eyes looked. I don't think I can do green eyes looked. Her chiseled face and piercing green eyes. What do they do? I'm not thinking very clearly today, and I'm not sure why. Chiseled face and piercing green eyes. Yes, I'm using the green-eyed Red Sonja from some of the later books. I believe she had blue eyes in the earlier books, but that's okay. There's reasons for that, and feel free to read all the books to figure that out. Chiseled face and piercing green eyes. Showed? Showed. I had a word. A blank expression, a resolute, an expression of resolve. of resolve. I was checking for the stench of a farm house. She said, still standing in the doorway. What farmhouse it is? Alas, farmhouse it is. A farmhouse for animals. Animals. Alas, farmhouse for pigs it is. A sword glinted at her belt. She closed the door and walked toward the bar. Boris could not take his eyes off of this impossible beauty. Scantily clad, in winter. by the time she ordered an ale. His mouth was agape. His mouth was agape. Only closing by the time. By the time? Only closing by the time. Something he only noticed at the time, by the time she ordered an ale. That's not right. Something she only noticed by the time she'd ordered an ale. Well, that's fine. I'm not worried about it. Only noticed by the time she had ordered an ale. Agape and watering. Something he only noticed by the time she had ordered an ale. Come, sit. Come sit here by Big Boris. Come sit here by Big Boris. He yelled to the red trust. Trust, that's not right. Trust. Tresses? It is right. It's just, you don't normally see it as ED. You see it as a noun, not as an adverb or adjective, whatever it is. He yelled to the red-dressed woman. I will keep you warm. Warm. No, that's fine. The woman paid him no heed, and instead moved, and instead walked. There's got to be another word, another good word. Another good word for walked. I'm not going to worry about right now. It's small potatoes. And walked. And instead walked to a small table by herself. All right. The woman paid him no heed and instead walked to a small table by herself. The weight of the burden of a long trek easing. The burden of a long trek easing when the ale touched her lips. Eased. Let's keep our tenses, folks. Keep our tenses. Eased. It's more interesting that way. And with most of the first ale gone, she looked around the tavern, being kind of loose with the terminology here. I'll be reading this aloud to others tonight, so I kind of need to get it done. And I think I still have another page. Okay. I might normally be able to write faster than this, but the technical side of things and speaking while I write it's all new to me. But that's a thing. I can't say that this would normally take me this long to write, but I am actually a slow writer. Just constantly doing it is the trick, whether you're slow at it or not. All right. Eyes of the other patrons. I think I'm using that word a lot, but I'm writing for speed here. Eyes of the other patrons were upon her. Especially Boris, who had taken to standing at his table. Woohoo! Past the first page. Single space, so it counts as 2, right? All right. She breathed deep and drew her gaze back to her mug. Another barkeep she announced. Okay. We set up the characters very briefly. Now we need some more action, I think. Is the action going to exist between Boris and the lady, or is it going to be something else? Or both? I'm thinking both. Boris wavering a bit. Made heavy steps toward the woman. Big smile on his face. Big smile on his face. Is he going to say something, or is he going to do more act? Both. He sat, Said sat at her table uninvited. Put his elbows under his chin. I think that's how you would say that. Put his elbows under his chin, or would you say put his hands under his chin, resting his? That's very. I'm going to leave it like that. I think that. I don't know. That might not work, but it's going to be very fast. So I don't know if I need to belabor exactly what he looks like when he's sitting at her table. Put his and said, looks like the pretty lady needs some company. The warrior woman frowned, or was frowning, by this point, and said, without making eye contact, no. Move away. When the lout hadn't even twitched to leave, her hand went to the pommel of her sword. Okay, he's got to say something now. Why so stern? My lady, or my lady? My lady or my lady? I don't think he's going to respect her. So my lady. Question mark. This is a place for relaxing. Out of the icy I see trouble. Troubles. The piss for ale tastes better in the company of a man. My name is Red Sonja. The woman retorted. Perhaps you have heard of me? Perhaps you have heard of my vow? And all of the men I have slain to keep it? All right. Boris smiled dumbly. Bad adverb. That's okay. His eloquent, there's an N in there someplace. Eloquent response however, his eloquent response was interrupted by a loud gurgling. That's how it's spelled. Oh, it doesn't have any spelling suggestions? Imagine that. Gurgle. Yes, I can spell. That's not right either. Do we have a spell check? Oh, that's probably 1G. Yep, 1G. Gurgling instead of gurgling. His eloquent response was interrupted by a loud gurgling 2 tables away. The darkest corner of the inn emitted sounds most unnatural. A man barely visible in the dank wretched like a mighty troll. A small man, very visible, I can't spell. Like a mite troll. Poisoned by bad mushrooms. Yeah, I like that. A small man barely visible in the dank, wretched like a mighty troll, poisoned by bad mushrooms. It's not bad, not bad. His features. Feathers? His features flailed this way and that. Okay. Red Sonja was first to notice the I can't use unnatural. How about violent? Undulations? That might be too large a word. The petite man suffered. She was on her feet and in the merest moment her sword was out. Get behind me, you fool. She yelled at Boris. Merest. Is that merest? I don't think that's right, but I don't care. Doesn't matter. Let it go. Let it go. Boris, for his part, was still angry at being interrupted from the repertoire, from the being interrupted. Boris, for his part, was still angry at being interrupted. During his mating ritual. Yet, even he backed away when cold steel was backed. I can make A's. And cold steel was drawn. He stumbled to his feet and starred? I think that's actually right. Is it 2D? Stared hard in the dark corner. Sonja was in front of him when the writhing tentacles burst forth from the small man. These appeared as thick plant vines emerging and growing out of their stalk. Each vine, was covered in spike-like thorns. Covered in blood from their pathetic host. Yeah, I like that. At the end of which was another was verb. At the end of which gnashed, G-N-A-S-H, gnashed, a mouth of thorny teeth. At the end of which gnashed a mouth of thorny teeth. Of sharp, thorny teeth. These slid forward. He slid forward in what did they slide forward in? In quick succession? I don't know if that's the right word. You slid forward in quick succession, looking for mortal targets. Men and woman screamed. Goblets and glasses. Goblets and plates hit the floor. People struggled to their feet to beat a hasty retreat. People struggled to their feet to beat a hasty retreat. Panic gripped the tavern. Even the mighty Boris couldn't suppress a whimper. He backed to the bar and covered his eyes to block out the impossible horror. That that slipped sleeved, that moved, that undulated, that that coiled toward him. Then there was the sound of steel, and there was the sound of steel. Sonja waded into the throng of serpentine, no, that's better, serpentine vines. Her slashing blade severing severing long lengths from severing long lengths in two. That's better. By Mitra, you will not hurt these people. Not she screamed. Not while there is breath in me. Now the question is here, do I want to make Boris any kind of hero? Or do I just want to let him be I think I'm coming to the end of this adventure. So maybe I'll just make it about Sonja. the flailing plant beast jabbed with its terrible tentacles, terrible tentacles of death. Sonja's blade parried each before cutting and stabbing true. Greenish yellow ichor, greenish yellow ichor. Let's see if it has a spelling. Ichors? Oh, I-C-H. I-C-H. Oh, that's what I did. Okay, you just don't know the word ichor, apparently. Well, I think I can add that then. Add to dictionary. Pretty sure that's how it's spelled. I might be wrong, but I don't care. Greenish yellow ichor, bubbled, capital B. Oh, that's interesting. Bubbled and gouted. Gouted forth from the sliced off chunks. C-H-U-N-K-S. Why is it? Oh, that's green. That's not a spell check, I guess. Bubbled and gouted forth from the sliced off chunks. It's okay. It's not a great sentence, but it's okay. Let's see. In just a few more swings, Sonja was at the source of the unclean mass. The stump no longer appeared as a man at all, save for still being dressed in a farmer's simple clothing. Hick. Hick. The stump. Sonja hacked at the base. Now covered herself in glue. Now herself covered. Covered in goo. Herself now covered in goo. At last, with a final thrust, the twitching flailing. I know I've used flailing already, but at last, with the final thrust, the twitching, flailing beast ceased its motion. Matthew. How do you don't touch the microphone. How do you spell motion? M-O. Motion. How about that? I'm a college graduate. I can spell motion. At last, with a final thrust, the twitching, failing beast ceased its motion. That cut and that cut the thorny what? Dangerous. That's not the word I'm going to use, but maybe, just maybe, the source will give me something hazardous, unsafe, risky, dodgy, treacherous, there we go, or perilous, treacherous, the thorny, treacherous, vines fell to the floor in silence. The tavern remained largely quiet. Those still here, afraid to move, afraid to make a sound. Only Sonja's labored breath could be heard. Barkeep. Where is my ale? She bellowed. I could almost end it there. I keep bumping the microphone. That's not great. I think I'll add another sentence on here and then call it done. Only Sonja's labored breath could be heard. She turned from the slimy Is that right? Slimy? I don't think that's right. I don't care. I'm going to read it tonight and it'll be fine. I'm not going to call it Slimmy. She turned from the slimy corner and placed and lay her gore covered sword on her table. Barkeep, where's my ale? She bellowed. Thus ends another tale of the she-devil. Thus ends another tale of the she-devil with a sword. All right, I'm going to call it done there. It's been interesting recording myself while I write. You notice that I was very slow in some sections and very, well, comparatively fast in other sections. I'm still looking at that, wondering why that's the thing for me. I think that's probably something that all writers wonder about. What is really at the foundation for why some days writing is easy and some days it's not? People chalk it up to the muse, they chalk it up to the mood, they chalk it up to energy levels, feeling creative, not feeling creative, this, that, and the other thing. But is there something that stands in the way or enables the way? I bet it's irritating. I bet the answer to that question is irritating. That it's different for every person. Anyways, thanks for listening, and keep writing, or start writing, or why aren't you writing?